Hey folks, John Boehm here of the Let's Talk Beef podcast. Like I said earlier, I'm going to try to do some more video stuff here. Maybe try to do one a week, I think. I got some ideas lined up with that. Um, but this week I've had one of our listeners been reaching out, and we've been talking online quite a bit. So I thought, what an opportunity to get him on the line and just hear about his operation a little bit, and maybe try to start doing that a little bit more, hear more from the listeners, and just kind of get an overall view of who's out there and what they're doing. So I think it'd be a lot of fun to meet more of you and hear what you're doing in your cattle operation. So let me get Dan on the phone here and we'll talk. But first, too, if you like the video, please give it a like and even hit subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and get the word out, and we'll just keep moving this thing along. So, but we'll pause here and I'll get Dan on the line and we'll go from there. Thanks. Dan.
Hey.
How's it going?
All right. How about you?
Oh, I can't complain a whole lot. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. The video's a little lagging, but it'll catch up here, I think. So how's things? You in South Carolina, you said?
Yep. Upstate South Carolina. We're actually in Belton.
Belton, okay. How's the weather down there been?
It's been cooler the last couple days, like highs in the 50s, but we were 80 degrees 3 days ago.
Oh, wow. That's funny, because like 50 for us is like high right now, so
right.
Completely opposite, so. But cool. So I guess what I want to do is we'll just do a little, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be very long, but we'll just kind of just a little about who you are and what your operation is, and just kind of hear what you're doing.
Cool.
So I'll just start out with introducing you. So this is Daniel Hayes. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
And you're from Belton, South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
And we've been talking. You've just been reaching out a little bit on the Facebook, and we've been messaging back and forth. And I thought, hey, let's get Dan on, and we'll just chit-chat a little bit and see what you're doing down there. So why don't you just give me a little introduction to you, and we'll go from there.
We're just getting started in cows. We've been doing it about 2 years now. We started out just getting some bottle calves and that kind of thing, just getting our feet wet.
Yep.
And we moved from there to buying some kind of stocker calves, like really, really lightweight, 250-pound calves, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And just keeping them for 3 or 4 months and then selling them at the sale barn. And we kind of built our capital up until we were able to buy a few yearling heifers, and then we raised them out until they got to breeding age. Then we actually bought a bull that ended up. We've learned a lot of stuff the hard way because we don't really have a mentor.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that same boat though, but that's good.
So we bought a bull that didn't have a BSE.
Okay.
And he ended up being a dud. He bred one cow.
Oh man!
And then we took him to the sale barn.
Yep.
So nice. He had great EPDs, but ended up not doing very much.
So did you get a bull or heifer out of him?
We got one heifer calf.
Did you keep her?
No, we sold her.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Good. That was the right call. There you go.
But she actually was a really nice. She's a really nice heifer calf.
Yeah, she was tempting to keep then, huh?
Yeah, but I worried about the fertility.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. That's usually how it is, though. The ones you need to get rid of are the ones that you don't want to because they look good.
Right.
Yeah. So.
So we've got 6 cows right now.
Okay.
And a bull. And what we're wanting to do is grass finish all of our calves.
Yep.
But what we've got for genetics right now, we've got mostly Limflex cows.
Okay.
So Limousine Angus cross cows, and they're real big frame cows.
Yep.
So I'm worried about how long it's going to take to finish these calves.
Yep.
So I'm looking at trying to switch things around and get something a little bit smaller framed.
Yep.
We actually have a farm about an hour from here called Falcon Farm, and they have some Neil Trask bred Hereford heifers that are supposed to do really well in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm wanting to move towards.
Okay.
But we're going to grass finish all those calves out, and like I have a full-time job, obviously, with 6 cows. Like this is just a hobby for me.
Yeah.
So what we do is, or what we're trying to do is, we're going to finish them all out and then sell them to ourselves for break even, and then sell them to individuals, like direct market them, and all the profits from that will go to a buddy. A buddy of mine works for a charity called Child Freedom Coalition.
Okay.
And they rescue slaves in India.
Oh, wow.
And then they house them, child slaves, and they house them from the time that they're rescued until they're ready to go out and be self-supporting. So every calf that we finish should be able to support a kid, or should be able to support 3 or 4 kids for an entire year.
Oh, wow. That's
So
great. That's great, man.
that's what we want to do. But right now our calves are 7 months old, so we got a ways to go.
Hey, every day is a new day, so you can just keep moving forward.
Yep.
That's good. So did you grow up on a farm of any sort, or how did you kind of get into beef cattle?
Well, so right now, I would say I'm definitely the first generation that wants to be involved in this, but now my dad is also involved. So he saw what we were doing, and he wanted to get involved, and so he actually bought the farm that we live on now.
Okay.
And he lives here, and we live here in different houses.
Yeah, that's good.
But we've got basically we started out just wanting to homestead.
Yep.
And so we got some chickens, and then we got some goats, and did a bunch of gardening and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got those bottle calves, I was like, oh, this is where it's at. And there was just so much more to it. I love the breeding planning. I love like researching the genetics and
Yep.
Learning more about EPDs. And then I found out about rotational grazing and
Yeah.
holistic management kind of stuff, and I'm really getting into that. And I just got the bug and started listening to a ton of podcasts and reading everything I could get my hands on. And kind of what I decided was we've only got I've got a chicken yelling right behind me. I'm sorry.
Most people listening are in agriculture, so they get it.
We've only got about 14 acres of pasture.
Okay.
But here, some guys are running a cow per acre.
Yep.
So my goal is to kind of learn as much on this 14 acres and make all my mistakes on a small scale, hopefully.
Yep.
So that I can slowly build up, maybe pick up some lease land, which isn't easy to do around here. There's not a lot of leases available. I had one chance at like a 20-acre lease this year, but it was just a bad time because we were buying a house right when it came available.
Yeah. Yeah. That's usually how that goes.
But yeah, whenever you actually have the opportunity, there's something comes up. But just trying to make all the mistakes that we can and build up to something eventually.
Yeah. So how did you find the holistic management approach, or what do you like about it?
I listened to another podcast, the Working Cows podcast with Clay Conry,
Yep.
a good bit, and that kind of got my wheels turning. And then we started rotationally grazing our cows, and we saw a pretty big difference pretty quickly.
Yep.
We've got 2 main pastures. They're about 7 acres each, and the one that I've been really, really careful with is head and shoulders above the one that I haven't been as careful with. We've got 2-foot tall grass in that pasture right now.
Wow.
And we've only put nitrogen on once in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So we're also seeing a lot of different species coming in as far as grasses, especially clovers.
Okay.
Which everything around here is pretty much fescue.
Okay.
So we deal a lot with fescue toxicity, and so the clover really helps with that.
Yep.
So we've culled 2 cows because they were getting overheated in the summer, which it's nothing to have a 100-degree day and about 99% humidity here.
Yep.
Because you were down at Yon, so you got to experience our South Carolina summers a little bit.
Yeah, we were at Jan's, and then we were in Savannah for a week, and Savannah was oh my gosh, we couldn't even go, we didn't even go outside during the day. Like, we just stayed in our rented house, and because it was just, coming from the north, it was just like, oh my goodness, like, wow. But yeah, it's hot for sure. I did live in Kentucky from a time, so I am but it's been 10 years since I lived in Kentucky. So I've been acclimated back to the other side.
I can't imagine doing the Minnesota winters.
Yeah, I wasn't here. We were in Arizona this January, but like the winter before we were here, and like we had a stretch where it was like 3 days of like -40 or -50, It was just insane. So it's just crazy. So you got to plan a week in advance to kind of have everything set up and ready to go, because equipment just doesn't start. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, it just doesn't start. So you got to be ready to roll with what you got. So, but yeah. So where, I guess now I don't know where to go with this. So what do you do for a career? What's your job?
I'm a combustion technician.
Okay.
I work on industrial heating equipment, specifically gas-fired combustion equipment. We have a lot of textiles still in the South, not as much as we did 20 years ago. But I used to work on boilers, and I'm actually a third-generation combustion guy. My grandpa was from Rockford, Illinois, and he worked for Eclipse out there. And then I always said growing up, I don't really understand what my dad does, but whatever it is, I don't want to do it. And then I ended up following in his footsteps, and it's a good career because there aren't a lot of people who do it.
Yeah.
So
you followed him into that, and he followed you into farming.
Yeah, there we go.
So he's like, so if you're first generation farming, he's like, what, 0 generation farming maybe, or
I guess that's how it works. -1 or something.
-1. That's a good. You can call him that or something. So what drew, like, so you were just working that. So what was the idea of that funding that slavery thing? I guess that's kind of a weird way to say it, but
yeah,
saving those kids. Is that kind of where you got started with this idea of homesteading and raising stuff, or how did you just buy a farm or whatnot?
Well, that kind of started because we already had cows at that point.
Okay.
And just taking stuff to the sale barn here, my break even is around $800.
Yep.
And if I take a 6-month-old calf to the sale barn here, I'm going to get about $500.
Yep.
And I'm trying to be as low input as I can, but I don't have haymaking equipment, and I'm on 14 acres.
Yep.
So there's just really no way for me at this time to break even, especially once you calculate cow depreciation and owning a bull, which was probably a mistake. I probably shouldn't own a bull, but anyway.
Is there leasing opportunities down there, or what do you think?
For bulls?
I mean, what would be your plan?
As a southeastern cattle industry, we're known for having high risk calves a lot of the time. Like I don't know how many times I've heard people on podcasts say that, oh, those cattle looked a little bit southern or something like that.
Okay.
And said that as a negative. And we've got a lot of people who don't touch their calves until weaning. And the reason that they do that is because we don't get paid to do that.
Yep.
Like I said, you take a calf to the sale barn and you get like $500. Well, they don't account for whether you vaccinated. They don't account for whether you cut your bull calves.
Yep.
And so
there's no incentive to.
Right. And I don't remember where I was going with that, to be honest with you.
How about you leasing a bull?
Oh, right. And because that, a lot of people don't vaccinate their cow herds, so people are hesitant to lease bulls.
Gotcha.
I did find a couple opportunities, but then again, if you're looking to grass finish, you're really looking for a specific kind of bull.
Yep.
And you don't just want to take your neighbor's bull and toss him in there because you don't really know what you're going to end up with.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about going to AI school and maybe doing some AI on heat detect.
Yep.
Because when you only got 6 cows, I guess you can probably get away with it.
It's a little easier, yeah, for sure.
than when you got 200 of them.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that I'm really passionate about is the cattle industry in South Carolina.
Yep.
Because we can grow grass year round.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of unfair advantages that we don't necessarily capitalize on. The land prices are really expensive, which isn't great. But I'm really passionate about trying to figure out how we can. We don't grow enough corn to finish cattle here.
Yep.
At least not efficiently. There are guys who do it.
Yeah.
But most of our corn goes to the swine and chicken industry, poultry industries. She might go to the poultry industry if she doesn't quit.
She sounds
but
like
But I think one thing we're looking at is that pasture that's less productive. We're looking at converting it over to doing annual crops
Yep.
on it, and then grazing those. And if we can, I think the idea of a standing finishing ration is really cool. Like basically planting millet and some high protein legumes and that kind of stuff. I think that would be a really cool experiment, and then put my calves that I want to finish out on that and see. They're going to do better than they do on fescue in the 100-degree summer.
Yeah.
And I just think that might be a model that maybe the South can look at instead of bringing a bunch of corn in or something like that. And, I see guys around me that want to do it, but just don't have the opportunities.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that all works. And I'm probably saying stuff that doesn't even really make sense because I've had a lot of things that I've thought about, and then once you learn more, you're like, oh, that's why people don't do that.
Yeah.
But I just hadn't got there yet.
Yeah.
And I've asked a lot of questions about the annuals and that kind of thing, and some people are saying it doesn't pencil out, and some people are saying that it pencils out well, and I definitely don't think it'll pencil out for cows. I don't think planting an annual pasture just to keep mama cows on will pencil out. But for finishing a calf, and you're increasing your average daily gain from maybe a pound on fescue to maybe 2 pounds on millet with some other stuff mixed in, that might be worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
well, that's neat. So, do you have a goal? Like, how many cows do you want? I mean, what's the dream number, or what's, how big do you want to take this?
I would love to do it for a living.
Yeah.
If I could figure out how to do it. I mean, I breathe and eat and sleep it.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be absolutely amazing to be able to do it for a living.
Yep.
For right now, my goal is I want to get to where I can stock at a cow per acre, so that I can have about 14 cows here.
Yep.
So that's what we're doing, is we're clearing out some brush and basically renovating pastures with cows as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
We tried feeding a bunch of hay in the trees this year, trying to get some grass to grow there.
Yep.
So
you're buying hay?
Sorry?
So you're buying your hay?
Yeah, fortunately we have a neighbor who, the guy right behind us, he's got about 400 cows, and the guy right next to us has about 200 cows.
Oh, so they're intimidating.
No, they're one of them's super helpful.
Yeah, that's good. You need good neighbors like that.
The other one's also helpful. I was on a service call down in South Georgia, right near the Creasy's, actually.
Okay, yep.
And he called me and he said, "Do you have a black heifer with green ear tags?" I said, "I have several black heifers with green ear tags." He said, "Well, is she bred?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Do you want her to be? Because she's in with my bull." I said, "Well, I'll come get her tomorrow."
Yeah.
But my other neighbor, he cuts a lot of hay, and he delivers it and everything for me. I just get it off his trailer with a tractor, and he charges me a fair price. And so if you don't have a hay trailer, one guy quoted me $400 to bring me a trailer load of hay, and that's not counting the hay. He wanted $400 to deliver it.
Delivering it.
And since a lot of people, don't have that kind of infrastructure, I guess you can get away with it.
Yeah.
But since my neighbor, he just comes by on his way home and drops it off for me. So
that's good.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, well, I think that's kind of a good spot. I mean, you're doing some neat things. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, and I hope we'll stay in touch for sure, and we'll keep going. But I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really do appreciate that. I hope you're learning something, or at least seeing what other people are doing out throughout the country. And it was great to meet you, Dan. It was a lot of fun.
Good to meet you too.
Yeah.
And thank you for putting out the podcast. I know it's a lot of work, but I really enjoy it. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dan. Have a good day, and we'll talk soon. I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
All right, see ya.